We are a small group of professionals who are examining the backlogs of cold cases and closed cases within our files. Cases of a very specific kind. When genre fans take their love of media too far, you get twisted, real-life criminal acts.
You know how you said...
Jane, there's a bell for a reason. You know I can see you, right?
Thanks for the acknowledgement. I thought I'd have to hit the bell for that.
Okay, Jane, you've got my attention.
Okay.
What do you want?
You know how you said you hate sequels?
Did I say that?
Yes. Jeez, you're getting old. I've got a case.
And I think I need to take the bell off my desk.
No, seriously.
Jane, I'm busy, so...
It's from your favorite director.
There's a They Live case?
No.
Christine?
No.
The Thing?
Halloween.
Oh. John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween pioneered the slasher genre. It set the structure slasher films would honor for years to come. Unfortunately, that includes a long line of mediocre sequels.
There's some good ones in there.
Not many. Either way, the franchise was successful enough to endure a duology of reboots, as well as a trilogy of sequels to the original, which just wrapped up last year. It's a true bona fide slasher franchise.
Exactly. My case is about Halloween. You'll love it. It's about this guy with the worst plan, and he confessed right away.
What are you trying to do, take my job?
Maybe I am.
Well, if you think you're me, then why don't you give us a little introduction?
Can I use the pipe?
No, but you can have this for now.
Fullerton, California, 1982. 1 year after the original Halloween 2. Handyman Richard Boyer murdered an elderly couple in their own home.
Interesting. Now on to the real case.
That's not fair.
I'm the detective, Jane. These are my cases. Today we're looking at Jake Evans, a teenage boy who murdered his mother and sister in Aledo, Texas, 32 years after Halloween 2 was released to the public. However, only 4 years after Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Terrible movie, by the way.
But in my case, the killer had the same knife as Michael Myers. He even claimed to hallucinate and actually become Michael.
Interesting. But Boyer was high on drugs. Hardly a reliable source of evidence. Meanwhile, for Evans, he was a true fanatic. Some might say a true fan. He even mimicked the exact sequence of events in the movie. Coroner, evidence,
Hey!
now.
No! Coroner, show us the evidence for the Delmer Boyer case.
No, coroner, Evans case. Coroner?
Coroner?
Oh. Oh. There's a note. My beloved friends and coworker, I have gone on honeymoon with my dearest Pamela.
He didn't invite us to the wedding?
I'm dying to see how the cases turn out. Below are my notes for each. Much love, the coroner. I wish I could be happy.
My case first. Boyer murdered the Harbitzes in their Fullerton, California home. Mr. Harbitz was found with 24 stab wounds and Mrs. Harbitz with 19, respectively. The weapon used was Boyer's own hunting knife, one that he allegedly kept on his person at all times. Demonstrate on detective. I'm not doing that.
The main pieces of evidence used against Boyer were the knife, a pair of bloody jeans with the Harbitz's DNA, remnants of the jacket Boyer wore during the murders, and Mrs. Harbitz's wallet, which was found in a storm drain near Boyer's El Monte home.
Sloppy. Boyer didn't even bother to get rid of the evidence that could be connected back to him. Hardly seems like a case worth investigating. Why don't we take a look at the Jake Evans case? Jake Evans. He committed the murders in his Texas home. He used his grandfather's .22 Magnum revolver to shoot his mother, Jamie Evans, 4 times in the head and neck. He then shot his sister, Mallory Evans, at point-blank range, once in the back and twice in the head.
Jeez.
The main pieces of evidence against Evans was the .22 Magnum and the almost 30-minute confession he gave over the phone. I just happen to have the transcript right here. Jane, would you mind?
No, I'm not helping you.
Fine, I'll do it myself. It seems my assistant needs a break.
Assistant?
Children, honestly, I'll read it. When Evans called 911 after committing the murders, he said, quote, "I don't know. It's weird. I wasn't even really angry with them. It just kind of happened. I've been kind of planning on killing for a while now." End quote. He goes on to say that it wasn't his family specifically he'd been planning on killing, but rather anyone.
A premeditated murder. Seems like a psychopath.
Let's not jump to any conclusions.
A perfect time to go to the psychologist.
No. I'm not done with my case. Come on. Jake Evans, a 17-year-old boy from Alito, Texas. He was homeschooled, living in a gated neighborhood with his parents, sisters, and grandparents.
Sounds like a normal kid to me.
Well, that's what everyone else thought, too. On the night of October 4th, 2012, Evans took a revolver and shot his mother and sister in their suburban home. The crime came as a shock to the gated community. Evans gave a police detailed account on everything he did leading up to the murders. On the afternoon of October 4th, he watched Rob Zombie's Halloween from start to finish for the 3rd time that week.
Why would he do that to himself?
After that, Evans went outside and hit golf balls for an hour before coming inside, where he began plotting the murder of his family. At around 6:30, Evans' grandmother arrives, and the two of them go to run some errands and bring back dinner. She then drops Evans off back at his house about an hour and a half later at 7:30 p.m. Jane, will you just please read this part?
Can I be the detective?
Jane.
Fine. At around 9:30, Evans watched The Water Boy with his sister until 10 o'clock, at which Evans excused himself and went downstairs where he retrieved his grandfather's .22 revolver. At approximately 11:15, he went back upstairs and told his sister that their mother wanted to see her. She came out of her room and Evans shot her twice.
After shooting his sister, he headed downstairs and intercepted his mother, where he shot her 3 times. At this point, Evans noticed that his sister was still alive. He reloaded his gun and shot her and his mother each once more.
That's brutal.
Indeed. Evans was meticulous. His plan was to first take out his sister Mallory and then his mother Jamie, then go across the street and kill his grandparents and his older sister Emily, before finally killing his sister Audrey when she arrived home from college the next morning. An airtight plan.
How long do you think that he was planning this?
Nobody really knows for sure. At first, everything was going as planned. Evans first killed his mom and then his sister.
Then what happened? He developed a conscience?
Well, precisely.
See, I am just as smart as you, detective.
Anyhow, shortly after the murders, the guilt got to Evans. He calls 911 and confesses to the entire thing, abandoning the rest of his plan.
Still, you want to hear something real messed up and crazy? Get a load of this. Boyer.
Jane, you're still on this. Just drop it.
No, if you get a case, I get a case. We're both detectives here. After all, I've got the hat.
No, Jane, I'm a detective. Did you watch an episode of Columbo this week?
What's a Columbo? Anyway, Boyer, you know, the killer from my case gets drunk out of his mind and hops himself up on a crap ton of drugs. We're not talking just like the light stuff like marijuana. We're talking PCP, cocaine, and who knows what else. Then the loony drives over to his old employer's house, Francis and Eileen Harbitz, this elderly couple who hired him to do some jobs, and stabs them to death thinking he's Michael Myers.
An acceptable overview, I suppose. What about the timeline?
Oh, let's see. Boyer was picked up at approximately 5 p.m. on the evening of December 7th by his friend and drug dealer, John Kennedy. The duo got some drugs and did what's the word?
Copious?
Copious, where they did copious amounts of cocaine and PCP, after which they drove to Harbitz's home. There, Boyer went inside for about 45 minutes before rushing back into the car covered in blood.
Subtlety was apparently not in Boyer's repertoire. So how'd they catch him, Watson?
My name's Jane. You're getting really old. So a couple days later, their son William came home and found his parents dead. He suspected Boyer was the culprit and gave his name to the police. Police then conducted a raid on both he and his girlfriend's house. finding several pieces of evidence to arrest him. His defense in court was that he had hallucinated and thought he was Michael Myers, but the judge totally didn't buy it and sentenced him to death, but it got commuted to life in prison. Then
we go back to the real case we're investigating. Jake Evans' case was in legal limbo because of state laws involving capital murder and minors, as well as Evans' mental capacity. It took 3 years for psychologists to rule Evans mentally competent to stand trial. Evans ended up taking a plea deal and was sentenced to 45 years in prison. However, the most shocking thing about this case isn't the sentencing, it's Evans himself. I mean, we're talking about a kid who lived in a gated community, had no prior history with drugs or mental illness. It's strange.
That is strange. You see, in my case, you're not gonna try and stop me, detective?
Is there a point?
No. You see, in my case, Boyer was everything you'd expect from a killer. What made his case so peculiar was his reasoning behind the killings. Boyer claimed that watching Halloween 2 on drugs is to blame for the murder.
You think he was telling the truth?
I mean, if people can get high enough to see God, they can get high enough to think they're a fictional murderer from a horror franchise, right?
That's a weirdly good point.
You think Evans was telling the truth?
Nobody knows for sure. Evans had a history that suggested killing was always on the back of his mind. It is possible that Halloween obsession caused this.
I mean, same with Boyer.
You know who might be able to help us both out? Someone we both know and can go into the mind of anyone.
Dr. Phil?
Never asking you a question again. Psychologist, your thoughts?
On the Boyer case.
No, the Evans case.
Boyer.
Come on, Jane, you just can't help yourself, can you?
I am amazed at how argumentative you two are today. I mean, of course, I would expect you to have a more eristic personality, detective, but now you're bringing it out in Jane, too. You both are exhibiting an appalling lack of empathy, which is further accentuating the disagreement. Perhaps you two should both get over your low self-esteem, which is a common trait that's only adding fuel to the fire, and just pick a case.
What? Hey, you stop psychoanalyzing us.
What can I say? It's what I do. I could go on.
No, you're just wasting time. Can we please just get to the crime?
I suppose, but I don't really have much to work with here. You guys didn't give me many notes.
I wish I could say that's due to Jane's lack of detective skills, but unfortunately there isn't really much evidence on either crime.
Well, maybe you should have looked a little harder. That's a real neurotic thing to do. I know psychology too.
Oh, is that so? Anyway, I might as well start with the Evans case.
Ha! Even I know psychology's her thing.
The most revealing piece of evidence here is Evans's 911 call. If you listen to the audio file, his voice sounds sincere. One can reasonably conclude that he didn't enjoy killing. The fact that he halted his original plan of killing his entire family after these first two further corroborates this. If I didn't know any better, I would say Evans comes across as a well-adjusted teenager. Well, relatively.
And to be fair, he was never diagnosed with any sort of disorder when he was at the mental hospital following the crime.
Precisely, detective. Wow, something we can finally agree on.
But wouldn't you say this lack of mental illness could mean there was more room for the film to be the sole reason he perpetrated the crime?
And there it is. Not at all. For him to have felt compelled to kill after watching the film means that it's very likely he was mentally disturbed in some way, which I don't think is the case here.
No?
There's very little evidence to suggest that the film had much bearing on the outcome. I mean, do you see any significant resemblance between the crime and the film?
I mean, he killed his sister, just like Michael Myers.
Evans stated in his confession that he had thought about killing long before the crime, possibly even before he saw the film. He only later decided he would kill his family, most likely because they would be his easiest targets. The main thing Evans took away from his viewing was his admiration for Myers' stoic nature, how he could kill so calmly.
He didn't do a very good job copying that.
That's all I could manage based off of the evidence provided. Honestly, a lack of evidence like this is often what leads to false narratives regarding how influential the film is in these crimes.
That's kind of like my case. There's no way to know for sure how important the movie was for Boyer.
That's actually right, Jane. There's no way to know if Boyer's hallucination actually involved elements of the film or that he thought he was Michael Myers.
That's true. Did you also know he didn't even watch the movie that recently before the crime? He had seen it over a year earlier.
Well, we can't really know the extent that Rob Zombie's Halloween was involved in Evans' case either. All the news headlines closely associated the murders with Halloween, even though Evans discarded his DVD copy of the film specifically so that wouldn't happen. Who knows if he actually did it with that intention or if he was just burying an integral piece of evidence.
It's true. The media sensationalized both crimes as murders based on Halloween movies, but upon closer inspection, there's some clear differences between them.
Evans' crime was premeditated.
But Boyer's was more in the moment.
It's also worth mentioning that Evans immediately confessed his crime, whereas
Boyer tried to cover up his tracks and prove his innocence. His girlfriend even burned the jacket he was wearing during the murders.
Despite these differences, both crimes are ultimately remembered for the same thing: their association with the Halloween franchise.
Thank you for your insight, psychologist. Jane, I'm my bad. I shouldn't have been so hard on you. You were a fine detective.
You're all right for 72. I hope the coroner enjoys today's case.
Cases.
Case.